In fact, one of the biggest mistakes I see professionals make at this point in the year is to assume that they need to do more, right? More networking, more marketing, more events, more tactics, more everything. But what I see is that's not usually the answer because if you only have 6 months left, the goal is not to do more. The goal is to focus on the few activities that are most likely to move the needle before the year end. I'm Sylvia Garibaldi, founder and CEO of a well-established marketing training and done-for-you services company, tailored specifically for the modern legal and financial professional worldwide. While it's taken some trial and error to figure out which methods get the best results for professionals who are looking to grow their practices, fast forward to today, my team and I have nailed down and perfected a process that has helped so many of our clients consistently achieve outstanding results and create a legacy for their practices. I created the Serve First, Sell Later marketing podcast to give you simple, actionable, non-salesy, and results-driven marketing to grow your legal or financial practice like so many of our clients have. If you're a lawyer, mediator, financial, or divorce professional who is looking to become highly visible and wants to create a practice that makes an impact, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 129 of the Serve First, Sell Later marketing podcast. I'm your host, Sylvia Garibaldi. And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast by hitting the follow or subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes packed with actionable strategies to grow your practice. So we're halfway through the year, and whether you're excited about that or slightly uncomfortable hearing it, I think the reality is the same. There are only 6 months left. 6 months left to hit your revenue goals, 6 months left to strengthen relationships, to increase your visibility, to create momentum before we turn the page to a new year. Now, whenever we reach this point in the year, I see one of two things happen. Some professionals look at the goals they set back in January and think, okay, I'm on track. Things are moving in the right direction. Others look at those same goals and think, well, this year didn't go quite the way I planned. So maybe business has been steady but not growing. Maybe you've been incredibly busy, but not necessarily with the work that you want more of. And maybe you've been meaning to focus on marketing, networking, social media, referrals, your website, content, speaking opportunities, or all of the above. But client work and life have continued to get in the way. And I want to say, if this is you, you're not alone. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes I see professionals make at this point in the year is to assume that they need to do more, right? More networking, more marketing, more events, more tactics, more everything. But what I see is that's not usually the answer, because if you only have 6 months left, the goal is not to do more. The goal is to focus on the few activities that are most likely to move the needle before the year end. So in other words, if December 31st arrived tomorrow, what would you wish you had started doing today? So would you wish that you had spent more time tweaking your website? Maybe not. Would you wish that you had attended 3 more networking events where you collected a handful of business cards and never followed up? What most professionals need right now isn't another marketing tactic. They need clarity. They need focus. They need to be honest about where their next opportunities are most likely to come from. So, before you start planning the second half of the year, I want to ask you 3 important questions. First, where did your best clients come from during the first 6 months of this year? Second question, who already knows, likes, and trusts you, but hasn't heard from you in a while? And third, if someone went looking for your expertise online today, would they find you? So I know the answers to these 3 questions will tell you a lot about where your attention should be between now and December. So I want to simplify things for you, and we're not going to talk about 10 different strategies. We're not going to create a long list of marketing tactics. Instead, I'm going to focus on 3 areas that I believe can have the biggest impact on your business over the next 6 months. Strengthening your referral network, increasing your visibility both with people and with AI, and following up on opportunities that may already be sitting right in front of you. Because 6 months is enough time to make some very meaningful progress, but only if you're spending that time on the things that matter most. So let's dive in. So I want to start with one of the biggest opportunities available to most professionals right now, and that is your referral network. Now, before you tune out and think, oh, I know referrals are important, I want you to stay with me for a minute because this isn't about referrals. It's about relationships. And relationships take time. So, one of the biggest misconceptions I see is people think that referrals happen quickly. You meet someone, you have a coffee, you connect on LinkedIn, maybe you attend the same event, and then you wonder why referrals aren't immediately showing up. But that's not how referral relationships work. So think about your own behavior. If a client came to you tomorrow and needed help outside your area of expertise, would you immediately refer them to someone you met last week? Probably not. For example, I meet people at networking events, and I am always surprised at their initial ask of me in terms of referrals. I have just met this professional. I don't know anything about them, and yet they are asking me to send referrals their way. But I want to call out that behavior and say, listen, there needs to be trust first before any kind of referral needs to happen, right? I think you want to know more about that person. You want to understand how they work, what they're known for, whether they're responsive, whether they take good care of their clients, whether making that referral would reflect well on you. So, in other words, you want confidence, and confidence takes time to build. That's why I often tell clients that referrals are rarely the result of a single conversation. They're the result of multiple touch points over time. The coffee meeting that you have in July might become a referral that you receive in October. The LinkedIn conversation that you start in August might become the introduction that you receive in December. So the professional relationship you nurture this summer may become one of the most strongest referral sources next year or sooner. But none of that happens if the relationship never gets started, or worse, if it fades away because nobody stayed in touch. And this is exactly why I wanted to record this episode now, because September is much closer than most people realize. For many professionals, September feels like a fresh start. People are back from vacation, calendars are filling up, projects can move forward, cases pick up, budgets get reviewed, speaking opportunities have already been booked for the fall. So opportunities start emerging, and yet many professionals wait until September to start building relationships. By then, you're already behind. So the professionals who tend to have the strongest fall, meaning the fall outlook, are often the ones who spend the summer strengthening their network. So I want to be clear. Strengthening your network doesn't mean selling. It doesn't mean pitching. And it doesn't mean asking for referrals. It means simply building relationships. So here's a question I have for you. Who haven't you spoken to recently? And I'm not talking about strangers. I'm talking about people who already know who you are. They're in your network. Maybe they're former referral sources. Maybe they're past colleagues, professionals you met at conferences, people you've connected with on social, strategic partners, individuals that you've had great conversations with, but haven't spoken to in 6 months or even longer. And so if I asked you to make a list right now, how many names would be on it? And so for most people, I think the answer is quite a few. And that's where I focus my energy over the next few months, not trying to meet hundreds of new people, not chasing every networking opportunity, but really connecting with people who already have on some level of familiarity with you. Because it's so much easier to strengthen an existing relationship than it is to build one from scratch. Now, here's where I think a lot of professionals get uncomfortable. They think they need a reason to reach out. They think they need something important to say, or they worry that they're going to feel awkward. And I think the truth is, most professionals appreciate being remembered. And so a simple message can go a very long way. Something like, I've been thinking about you and wanted to see how things are going. Or, it's been a while since we last connected. I'd love to hear what's new in your world. Or maybe you say something like, I came across something that made me think of you. That's it. An authentic approach, no sales pitch, no agenda, just genuine curiosity. Because the best referral relationships aren't built on asking for referrals, they're built on trust. And they're built on consistency, and they're built on showing up before you need anything. The other thing I'd encourage you to do is to think strategically about who belongs in your referral network. So, for example, if you're a family lawyer, who serves the same audience as you? Is it divorce coaches, therapists, financial professionals, parenting coordinators, realtors who specialize in divorce transitions? Or if you're a mediator, who are the professionals your clients may interact with before or after they work with you? If you're an arbitrator, who influences the decision to engage an arbitrator? I think sometimes the biggest opportunities come from relationships that haven't been fully developed yet. And the next 6 months are the perfect time to start because here's what I know for certain. The professionals who enter next year with the strongest referral networks won't be the ones who suddenly decided to network in November. They'll be the ones who spent the second half of the year having conversations, checking in, helping others, staying visible, and strengthening relationships long before they're needed. So here's your challenge. Before Labor Day, make a list of 10 people that you genuinely like to connect with. Reach out, maybe have a conversation, schedule it, learn about what's happening in their world, look for ways to be helpful, and don't worry about whether a referral comes from that conversation next week. I don't think that's the point. The point here is that relationships are an investment. And the professionals who consistently invest in relationships are often the ones who never have to wonder where their next opportunity is coming from. Okay, let's talk about the second area I would focus in on if there were only 6 months left in the year, and that is visibility. And you know that's a topic I talk a lot about. Now, I know visibility isn't always the most exciting topic. Most professionals didn't get into law, mediation, arbitration, financial services, divorce coaching because they wanted to become marketers, and I understand that. They got into these professions because they wanted to help people solve problems. But whether we like it or not, visibility does matter because people can't hire you if they don't know you exist, and they can't refer to you if they don't understand what you do. So one of the questions I often ask clients is this: if someone was looking for exactly the type of help you provide, how easy would it be for them to find you? And I mean, not just your name, I mean, find your expertise, understand your specialty, and really see the evidence of your credibility. And I think feel confident about reaching out. A few years ago, most people would have relied heavily on referrals, and they still do today. But they also do something else. They search, they Google, they visit LinkedIn, they visit websites, they go onto AI platforms, they listen to podcasts, they read articles. And as I mentioned, they're asking AI tools questions that they used to ask colleagues. So, questions like, who are the leading family mediators in my area? What's the difference between mediation and arbitration? What should I look for when selecting a workplace mediator? Who specializes in my area in helping organizations resolve conflict? So, whether we like it or not, people are researching long before they ever contact us. And that's why visibility has become so important, because every piece of content you create helps answer a question. Every social media post helps clarify your expertise, and every article helps establish credibility. Every podcast interview expands your digital footprint, and I think every webinar, every presentation gives people another reason to trust you. And the challenge is that many professionals approach visibility in somewhat the wrong way because they think that they need to be everywhere. They think that they need to be posting every day, creating videos, launching a newsletter, starting a podcast, being active on every social platform. And then they become so overwhelmed and don't do anything. So let me simplify this. We know that there are only 6 months left in the year. So I don't want you trying to be everywhere. I want you to become more visible in one place. For most professionals listening to this podcast, it's most likely LinkedIn. Not because it's the only platform, but because it's where many of your referral partners, colleagues, and yes, prospects are already spending their time. And here's the good news. You don't need to become an influencer. And no, you don't need thousands of followers, because I think many people believe, oh, I need to have thousands of followers in my network. And forget about your posts going viral, because that is not what's going to get you clients. You simply need to become more visible than you are today. And yes, sometimes I say things that are controversial in the sense of in the marketing world where people say your posts need to go viral in order to get clients, or the more likes you get, the more clients you're going to receive. And that's simply not true. So I'm here to really bust that myth and let you know that it is consistency that's going to win the game every single time. So let me give you a quick example. So if you're a workplace mediator and you help organizations navigate conflict, communication breakdowns, difficult workplace relationships, maybe team challenges, I want you to ask yourself, what questions are HR professionals, managers, CEOs, business leaders asking every single day? So maybe they're wondering, how do I address conflict between two employees before it escalates? Because I know it's going to escalate. Or maybe they're asking, what should I do when communication breaks down within my team? I want to share something with you that I see come up time and time again. Many professionals I speak to know exactly who they want to attract, but where things break down isn't clarity, it's actually implementation. So they're not sure how to translate that into messaging, how to stay visible, or how to turn that visibility into actual client inquiries. So if this sounds familiar, I created a step-by-step guide to help you work right through this. This free guide walks you through how to define your ideal clients, identify the right referral partners, understand where they're actually looking, including AI, and most importantly, how to turn all of that into consistent action. You can download your free guide at www.sgandassociates.ca/free-guide. Link is also in the show notes. When is the right time for me to bring in that workplace mediator? Or how do I have a very difficult conversation with an employee? What are the warning signs that a workplace conflict is becoming a much bigger problem that is affecting our ROI? Okay. Those questions aren't just opportunities for client conversations. They're actually opportunities for content. So a workplace mediator could create a LinkedIn post explaining the early signs of unresolved workplace conflict. In fact, we write for a lot of workplace mediators, and so we know what's going to generate interest. And so they could write an article about when mediation is appropriate and when it isn't. The idea here is you could even host a webinar inviting HR professionals and CEOs on how to prevent workplace conflicts before those formal complaints happen. And listen, none of this content is promotional, right? I think you'd agree with me there. It's educational, it's useful, and it's the type of information that people are typing into AI and Google. That's where I think a lot of professionals get stuck. They think that content is about marketing. Content is about education. It's about serving first. It's about making your expertise visible. It's about helping people understand how you think. Demonstrating your experience before someone ever picks up the phone is super important. And as I mentioned, the AI piece here becomes increasingly important. So let's say an HR director is researching ways to handle workplace conflict. Maybe they're searching Google. Maybe they're asking ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. Maybe they're browsing LinkedIn for guidance. And so the workplace mediator, who has been consistently publishing insights, articles, speaking on podcasts, sharing practical advice, those are the ones who are most likely to appear in those searches, then the equally qualified mediator who has remained virtually invisible. Okay? AI platforms don't know you're excellent at what you do. They only know what they can find. They learn from your digital footprint, what you've created. They're looking at your website, your LinkedIn profile, your articles, what people are saying about you, your Google reviews, your speaking engagements, the content that you've published, your downloadable guide. This is why I believe visibility is no longer just a marketing activity. It's really a business development activity because visibility influences trust. And we know that visibility obviously influences referrals and opportunities and whether people think of you when they need help. So here's my challenge for you. Between now and the end of the year, I want you to pick one visibility strategy and commit to it. So, whatever it might be, maybe it's posting or publishing one article a month. Maybe it's writing a blog every week. Maybe it's speaking at industry events or events where you know your ideal client hangs out. Maybe you finally decided, you know what? It's time for me to host my first webinar or ongoing webinars. So the specific activity matters less than the consistency because visibility compounds. One post probably won't change your business. We know that for sure. And one article is not going to change your business either. So let's face it, it's not one offs that are going to help you grow your business. But 6 months of consistent visibility, you can bet it will absolutely change your business. And perhaps more importantly, it can change how people perceive you. And once again, the goal is not to become famous. It's to become known when people need your help, right? They want to know your expertise. They want to know your specialty. And I think you also want to be known for the problems that you solve because when opportunities arise, and you know that they will, you want people to think of you first. And I believe increasingly that you want people and AI platforms to be able to find you, understand you, and recognize your expertise. Because in the next 6 months, visibility isn't just about being seen, it's about being remembered. So let's talk about the third area that I would focus on during the next 6 months. And honestly, this may be the most overlooked opportunity of all, and that is follow up. Now, I know follow up isn't nearly as exciting as talking about AI or social media or branding or marketing strategy, but I've been doing this long enough to tell you that many professionals are sitting on opportunities that they haven't fully pursued. Okay. In fact, as you're listening to this, you're probably nodding your head. If you're listening to this and thinking, I need more leads, my first question to you would be, do you really? Or do you need to do a better job of following up with the leads, conversations, and relationships you already have? Because those are two very different platforms. So, one of the things I see over and over again is professionals spending a tremendous amount of time trying to generate new opportunities while completely overlooking the opportunities that they've already created. And so think about your own business for a moment. Have you had conversations this year with prospective clients, maybe referral partners? How about colleagues, webinar attendees, or from speaking engagements? What about networking contacts? How about former and present clients, right? Of course you have. Now, here's the bigger question. How many of those conversations simply faded away? Not because someone said no and not because they weren't interested, but because life got busy. Someone went on vacation, a project got delayed, a family issue came up, a business opportunity shifted. Simply the timing wasn't right. And suddenly, a conversation that seemed promising 6 months ago has gone completely quiet. And that happens all the time. And yet, many people assume silence means lack of interest. And it usually doesn't. Silence simply means people are busy. Let's take another workplace mediator example. Imagine an HR director attended your webinar in March. They downloaded your guide. Maybe they booked a discovery call. And at the time, they really liked what you had to say. But the conflict that they were dealing with wasn't urgent. Or maybe budget approvals hadn't happened yet. Or another example could be maybe another issue took priority, right? Fast forward 6 months. That situation has dramatically changed. The need may be greater. The budget may now exist. The conflict has really escalated. But here's the thing, you never followed up, so you will never know. Meanwhile, another mediator who stayed in touch may get that opportunity before you. And it's not because they're more qualified, but simply because they remained visible. And this is one of the reasons I often tell clients that follow up is not about chasing people, it's about staying connected. And if you think of it that way, if you change your perspective on it, you'll be more motivated to stay connected. And I think there's a big difference because chasing feels uncomfortable. Staying connected feels professional. So following up doesn't have to mean asking, "Are you ready to hire me yet?" In fact, that could be maybe one of the worst approaches. Instead, it could be as simple as, "I was thinking about our conversation and wanted to see how things are going," or "I recently came across an article that made me think of our discussion." Or maybe when we last spoke, you mentioned that this was a priority later in the year. I wanted to check in to see where things stand. And so those messages aren't pushy, they're helpful, they're relationship driven, and they're consistent with the entire philosophy of our podcast, which is the Serve First, Sell Later Marketing podcast. Now, here's an exercise I'd encourage you to do this week. Open your CRM, open your spreadsheet, open your email folder, open your social media direct messages, and make a list of every meaningful conversation you've had in the first 6 months of the year. Okay, this may take you an hour and a half, but it will be well worth your time. Then divide them into 3 groups. Group 1, prospective clients. Those are people who expressed interest but didn't move forward. Group 2 are your referral partners, people you'd like to strengthen relationships with. Group 3 are past clients and professional contacts. Maybe it's people who already know, like, and trust you. Now ask yourself, who would benefit from hearing me again? Not because I want something, but because I genuinely want to reconnect. You may be surprised by what happens. I've seen clients reconnect with a prospect 6 months later and close a project within weeks. I've seen referral relationships reignite after a simple check-in message. And it's surprising how these little messages can have huge impacts. I've seen speaking opportunities emerge from conversations that everyone assumed were long over. And why? Simply because timing matters. And here's the thing. Timing changes. The person who wasn't ready in February may be ready in August. The referral partner who had nothing to send in March may have 3 opportunities in October for you. And so the organization that postponed a decision earlier this year may now be moving forward. But listen, none of these opportunities can happen if you've disappeared. That's why I believe follow-up is one of the highest return activities available to professionals. It doesn't require a marketing budget. It doesn't require a new website. It doesn't require fancy technology. And it simply requires consistency and some thought. And I think a willingness to stay visible in the lives of people that you've already met. But here's what I want you to know. Many professionals are looking for their next client in places they've never been, when in reality, their next client may already be sitting in their contact list, in their inbox, in their DMs, maybe their LinkedIn messages, or their database. And they're waiting for a conversation to restart. If there are only 6 months left in the year, that's an opportunity I certainly wouldn't ignore. All right, so I want to give you this in an action plan now, because I always want to leave you with something practical, right? Not just marketing theory and not just like a list of ideas, but a real action plan. Because 6 months from now, we're going to be at the end of the year. And whether 2026 becomes the year you gained momentum or the year you stayed stuck will largely come down to the actions that you take over the next few months. So if I were in your shoes, here's exactly what I would focus on. Step 1 is audit the first 6 months, as I've said. Before you do anything else, take an honest look at what's happened so far this year and ask yourself, where did my best clients come from? Which referral relationships generated opportunities? What marketing activities actually worked? And what did I spend my time on that produced very little return? I don't want you guessing. I want you to look for the evidence because the second half of the year should be informed by what you already learned. And maybe if you can, carve out a window of time to do this exercise. Maybe it's 1 hour each day you spend on it, or maybe you just dedicate half a day on the weekend to say, I'm going to get this done so that I have a good sense of where I need to focus the next 6 months. Step 2, reconnect with your referral network before Labor Day, okay? Make a list of those 10 people that you want to connect with. Former referral sources, current referral partners, colleagues, strategic partners, people you genuinely enjoy and respect. And then I want you to schedule those conversations. Once again, not to sell, not to pitch, not to ask for referrals, just simply to reconnect. Step 3, I want you to commit to just one visibility strategy, not 5, just one. Pick one. Choose the visibility activity that you're most likely to stick with and the one that you've seen that you've had the most traction with over the last 6 months. Okay. So maybe that's publishing a blog every week. Maybe it's speaking at events. Maybe it's appearing on podcasts. Maybe it's actually working with those referral partners that you know are a great source of referrals. And please, once again, I want you to remember that every piece of content that you create, and it's super important to keep creating that content, it becomes another opportunity for people and increasingly AI to find you, understand you, and remember you. So please think about that as well. Step 4, review every important conversation you've had this year. Go through your contacts, your email, your messages, your DM messages, your CRM, your networking notes, maybe your notebook if you keep notes there, and ask yourself, who should I connect with? Who expressed interest? Who said not right now instead of no? And who might be ready today, even if they weren't ready 6 months ago? Then I want you to start reaching out because your next opportunity may already be sitting in your database. Step 5, please focus on progress and not perfection. You don't need a perfect marketing plan or a perfect business plan. You don't need a complete rebrand. You don't need to overhaul your website. And you don't need to master every single AI tool out there. You simply need to take consistent action, small actions repeated over time, because that's how momentum is built. And momentum is what creates results. So if you're wondering what to do with the next 6 months that remain this year, start here. Strengthen those relationships, increase your visibility consistently, and follow up on those opportunities, past and present. And that's it. Simple doesn't mean easy. Let me emphasize that. But it does mean effective. And if you commit to those 3 things between now and December, there's a very good chance you're going to begin 2027 in a much stronger position than where you are today. Look, most of your colleagues are just thinking about getting through the end of the year. I want you to take that a step above. I want you to be ahead of your competitors. So start doing the work now for the next 6 months of the year. And you'll thank me for that later. If today's episode gave you a few ideas, or maybe it highlighted a few areas where you've been meaning to take action, I really encourage you not to wait. Choose that one thing, take that step, and get started. Because 6 months from now, you're going to be grateful that you started today. So thank you for listening. And of course, if you're looking for how do I build the next 6 months out, then please book a strategy call with me. I'd love to help you. You can book a strategy call by using the link in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. And if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss future episodes. And please share this episode with anyone who you think could make use of it. See you in the next episode.